Thank you. So welcome to the September 2nd, 2021 Library Trustees meeting. We can jump right into the agenda. So first up is any public participation.
No.
Do not see any. All right, correspondence.
No.
No correspondence. All right. We have the minutes from August 5th, 2021. Did everyone get a chance to review them? Anyone have anything Wendy did a fantastic job with them. It was great. I have no changes. Anyone else?
No.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to accept the minutes?
Second.
All right, we'll roll call. So Kimberly,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Chris, you were absent, I guess.
Yes, who seconded? Can I just ask who just seconded? What, Kimberly?
Kimberly did. Mark
Yes.
and Mira.
Yes.
And I also approve them. Okay, treasurer's report. Oh, you're on mute, Kimberly.
Okay. I have the amounts. They're also in the, I think they're also in the email that Sam sent today, but I will say them for the sake of the meeting.
That'd be great.
Our library trustees gifts amount is $4,228.99. The library building gift amount is $934,221.41. And the library state grant is $3,518,289.58. And I will forward on the Barth report when we get it. It doesn't come till the end, till the kind of the first week of the next month.
Gotcha. Our early month meetings do not help that. All right, Friends report.
I have a quick question. Yes. Is the trustees gift amount, is that the same as the MMDT? Okay, it is. Great. Okay, thank you.
All right, Friends report.
Okay, so let's see. The big things they discussed, they had about $2,700 in membership so far for the year, I believe. They are holding on the newsletter. So they were going to put out a newsletter advertising the opening day, but they're holding on that. And also holding on, they were hoping to have an October book sale, but as far as I know, that's on hold too until we have more news on opening. The holiday bazaar is still on for now. They discussed different options, things they could do, possible jewelry auction. I think Sarah had talked to another library that had success with that. So that was one idea. And then like they've done in the past, pull holiday books from the used book or the book sale selection to sell those and anything else. But that is still in talks to if it's really going to happen. So we'll stay tuned for more news. And I believe those were the major topics.
Is their year the calendar year or the July to June year?
That's a great question. I think it's the calendar year.
Mira, do they have a goal in terms of how many members they're hoping to get? Do you know?
Not that I know of. So it's basically so much of the fundraising effort over the past few years has been sort of towards the building fund. So now they're sort of getting back to normal fundraising. So I don't know if they do have a goal or not. Maybe Katrina, you know more if there's any.
I don't know if there's a number of people goal, but I'm sure that if there are willing volunteers who want to help in any of their events, they'll always look for new people to help, is my understanding. So some new blood would be good.
Mm-hmm. And yes, there was a push for younger blood to
I was going to say
friends.
it could help to have the next generation step in too. Yeah. And learn the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, Mira.
Sure.
So fundraising and public awareness, I feel like this role is kind of, since the building is about to wrap up, it's winding down, which is nice, at least the financial part of it. Let's see. Since our last meeting, Mira, Sarah, and I made contact with all of the outstanding pledges who hadn't started yet, just to check in and make sure they were still able and wanting to contribute their pledges, and all of them confirmed, and many started payments and others made plan for this year and next year. So the donor wall has been designed, and we're going to do like the final check of all the names. This week, there were 213 donors who made it on the donor wall, which is amazing. And I feel like I'm going in every week to sign lots of letters from donors, but I'm sure Mark signed many more than I have to date. And I think that is what I have for fundraising. Mark, what am I missing?
I think that's good.
Great. Do you want to do a building update?
Sure. We didn't actually have a meeting this week. The Commodore is working, they're very close to getting their certificate. We're going to get a temporary certificate of occupancy, in which will mean that Commodore is essentially done with all of the work. And we're just waiting for the furnishings and things to be put in. That should be happening later this week or next week, I think. I think the only real work, or one of the major things left for Commodore to do, is the sidewalk out in front of the town hall. They need to put the ADA ramps in. And then there's a punch list things. Like I noticed the name hasn't moved on the building yet, and things like that. So there's a few things like that we have to talk about, but they're pretty much done. Once Commodore is done and the certificate of occupancy is awarded, then some of the furnishings will be moved in that are sitting in a warehouse now. The shelving date is still tentative September 25th. So I don't know that we have a firm commitment on that yet. So, am I missing anything, Sam?
The architect, Phil, did send me a mock-up of where he wants to move the name. He's going to move it over the doors. So, they
On the way high?
Yeah,
okay.
Above the door. So he was going to submit that today, I think.
The only other thing that I know that was being done in the interiors, we needed to figure out what we're doing on the floor color, right?
Right. Haven't heard anything about that yet.
And they're just basically going through the punch list. So.
Okay. And you guys have a punch list that is agreed upon by everyone?
So we've suggested things that I don't know where they are on some of the punch lists. The punch list was more through the architects and the engineering firms and the building inspector to come up with their punch list. We've added things that I hope have made it on the list, but I'm not 100% positive where they're at. So.
And then once they give us that certificate, there no other changes can be made, like for that punch list stuff.
Once, I'm not actually sure. So I'm pretty sure we can still do whatever we want. It's just a matter of at whose expense at a certain point, right?
Well, I just want to make sure that our punch list is fully completed before it becomes our expense again.
Right. Well, there's some things that are going to be they're going to be the project expense as opposed to Commodore's expense.
Okay.
Like putting up the donor walls, and that's going to be an expense for the project, right?
Yeah.
That's not part of Commodore's thing and things like that. So.
Yeah, I was just thinking the punch list things that are part of their scope. So making sure we get all of our items taken care of.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sure you guys are on that. And maybe this is a good time. Sam, did you meet with the conservation about that tree? Or is that meeting still to be held?
So that meeting, I was there as well. That meeting happened about a week and a half ago. And nothing was nothing was resolved as far as I know at that point. They have tagged the trees that they were talking about taking down. Commodore had a certified arborist come in early this week to say whether or not the trees should come down or not. I have not heard the result of that report yet. There'll be some haggling probably between the Commodore, the tree warden, and us. Personally, I would like to see as many of the trees saved as we can, and if we had to put like a contingency fund aside, right, out of the building cost to say, we'll spend X amount every year to, hire someone to make sure the trees are good or take them down, right, until the money's gone, basically, right? We should be able to do something like that. So we're going to work with conservation on that, but it's going to go to another meeting. They were going to come out and look at the trees once they were tagged.
Gotcha. Cool. And then any updates on the solar panels?
We have the earmark for the solar panels. They sent a form that the finance director, whose name escapes me at the moment, filled out and was supposed to be sending back to the state. So the way that earmark works is they'll give us basically half upfront and half on completion. So they're going to the state's going to give us the money for, the 55,000. We are working to get with GGD, who's the engineering firm on it, to put it out to bid, hopefully in the next week or two. I'm not sure beyond that. So once it goes out to bid, it has to stay open for like 3 to 4 weeks, I think, and then then PMBC will pick the contractor from that.
Cool.
So
it's moving.
It's moving. There's no indication at this point whether it's going to happen before winter or in the spring, partially because I have no idea how long it takes to get solar panels at this point. Everything else seems to be taking forever, so we don't know when they'll actually arrive. They have to be on the building by June 30th of next year for the earmark. It has to be done in the fiscal year. So.
Okay. Order them now for next spring.
Yes.
All right. And then since we're still in the building, Sam, you said there's some furniture in a warehouse and September 25th. Any other updates on the interior necessities?
No, not really.
No.
We've security cameras were installed. Basically, we're just waiting on furniture. No real updates other than what's in the warehouse already. Yeah.
There's a lot of it in the warehouse.
Apparently, they had to rent another warehouse for other orders, so it fills their warehouse. I don't know what that means or how big their warehouse is, but
okay.
Yeah.
Once we have that certificate, things could start being delivered.
Yeah.
Okay. Fingers crossed that goes quicker so we can get in the building. All right. Any other building related updates?
The only other thing is that there's another tree that's coming down too, right? The tree by the tennis court should still be coming down at some point. Highway was taking those 2 trees down, and when they were taking the second one down, their equipment broke. So I assume it'll come down still once their equipment is operational again.
Okay.
Did anyone check on the site today to see if there was any water damage from all the water? So
somebody should go this week.
I'll be there tomorrow. I'll go check.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. Let's hope not. All the grass seed gone down the hill. That would be bad. All right. There's no other building updates, or how about trustee updates? I'm just going to go around my screen. So Kimberly.
Yep. So this month I worked on, I went through all of the policies for the library and made some suggested edits on them. I think it was before last time, but maybe it was since last time that Sam in particular updated the meeting room one, because that's the one that's going to have the most, I don't know, we're going to need it the most right away. But since the opening is pushed out, we still have a little bit more time kind of for all of us to take a look at that. Also, third Thursday, a bunch of us were there. And definitely the number one question was, when is it going to open? I don't think anyone had any other questions but that. But it was, as you know, as people said, it was nice being there and just kind of relaxing and representing the library without feeling like, oh my God, we need money. So that's all.
It was a much more relaxed experience, which is good. All right, Wendy.
Yeah, third Thursday was great. I think it was a great call to be out there with the community. There's a nice, steady, like slow but steady flow of traffic there, and lots of questions about the opening. Lots of really positive comments. A lot of people talked about having walked by, seen it. And aside from a couple of comments about the color of the paint, which ran the spectrum, people were very, very positive all the way around. So that was really great. I picked up aprons that we're going to be working on silk screening for the grand opening for all the librarians and the staff. So we're going to try that and then work with Sarah to see if it kind of meets the vision. And hopefully we'll have a draft of that ready by next weekend for people to take a look at. And that's all I've got. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Chris.
Yes, sorry, it takes me a couple minutes because I've got my notes on one side and my Zoom on the other, and I have to flip back and forth. So my biggest update is not related to the library, but it's that I dropped Catherine off at Emerson College last Tuesday, and so I'm lonely in my house. I mean, Phil's here, but you know, she's doing really well. She loves it. So far, so good. So it's nice to hear her happy, and I think she's where she's supposed to be. So that's good. Library related, I've got two things. The first is, it happened actually a while ago, but I haven't been here. I have found, I don't think it was lost, but we didn't know where it was. The shovel, not the shovel, the scissors for the ribbon cutting. So we know where they are. They're in the town offices. I just need to send an email when we know when we're going to need those. And they're aware that we want to use them. And the other thing is that I met with Cheryl about 3 weeks ago, and I'm working on writing a little opening, or like, I don't know what you want to call it, introduction, I guess, to the book that she's working on, the guest book that she's working on. So her deadline is fast approaching, so I need to get working on that and finish it for her. But I will have that done for her in the next couple of days. So I think.
What is that? I haven't heard about the guest book.
So it's this really amazing 3-dimensional craft collage project. It's going to be really cool. So she's taken, I think it's a really old, I can't remember if it's an encyclopedia or a dictionary.
A dictionary.
Okay, dictionary.
Yeah,
and
it's really cool.
She's got page, like you flip the page, and on one page it's like decoupage something. She's got pictures. She's got a copy of the speech that Susan gave back 2 years ago. It's going to have in there spaces for people to sign. It's just going to be sort of full of memories. Like
Wow.
She's got all kinds of tactile things. It's really, really cool. I can't probably accurately describe it because it's not done yet. She showed me sort of like the beginning of it, but I think it's going to be really amazing. So I'm working on a sort of this is what it is kind of at the beginning. I'm not sure why she asked me to do it, because I feel like I'm not necessarily the most qualified, but I'm honored to do it. So I might be asking actually for some help on that.
I was going to say, if you want some editors and opinions, we can give you some.
I will always say yes to editors. Always say yes to editors.
Feedback's always good for these things.
Absolutely. That's on my list of things to do tomorrow, because I owe that to her early next week. So
I was going to say Susan's speech was a real collaborative effort, and it came off beautifully.
I'm calling it Susan's speech because we all worked on it.
We all had hands in there. It was great.
So anyway, that's what I've got.
Awesome. And you were also at Third Thursday, which was great to see you there. And Mark.
So most of the time around the library, I've been on a lot of calls and issues with getting the building going. So The closer we get to the deadline, the more work it seems to be. So I don't know how Sam's holding it together. I'm very anxious for it to be open up so that we can have a new type of stress. So
I think we all want it to be open, but more so for you and Sam to like have a moment to breathe.
yes.
Thank you for doing all of that. I know it's a lot. So if you need help, let us know.
Yep. So.
Although at this point it's in your brain, so I'm not sure how we'd take it out of there. Mira, why don't you go?
Big thank you for the summer reading program. Both of my kids really enjoyed that. Somehow we were away for all of the programs, so I missed some of them. Sounded really cool, but we couldn't do those. But they read, they got their 100 hours, and we've had audiobooks going nonstop. So that was a good motivator for them to do that. And now it's just consumed with back to school and all of that fun stuff.
Yes. So I can reiterate that Third Thursday was great. It was really nice to have a community event and to see everyone in town back together outside at Third Thursday. And everyone I run into is asking when the library is going to be open. They just can't wait to get in there. So hopefully we can fulfill that dream soon for them. And summer reading was awesome. Eric also made it to 100 hours and was thrilled with that. And the programs that our family attended were great. Like it was a really good selection we enjoyed them. And then I'm also, my husband the other day was like, get me a book when I went to the library. And I was like, he never asked that. So I was like, I have no idea. He couldn't even give me a genre to get. So I walked up and Julie F, I was like, just give me, what book do you think John would like? And she pulled her book club book off the shelf and he loved it. So she nailed it. And I'm very grateful for her recommendation. And now I'm reading it and it's also great. So I'm thankful for that recommendation.
What book is it? You can't just leave it like that.
I know. It's the guy who wrote A Man Called Ove. Is it Fredrickson? Anxious People, I think is the title.
Frederick Bachman.
Thank you.
Really
Fredrickson is Julie.
I like that too.
Yeah, so I like that author. John also likes that author. So it was, and it just happened to be this month's book club. So maybe we can convince him to go to book club. We'll see. And that's all I have to update. So I think we're on to Sam, right? And Helen.
So it's been a busy couple of weeks at the library. We had a couple of COVID scares. Luckily, everybody's doing well now. Mostly from the spouses of our staff. No one on staff has it. But this one spouse that does have it, he is doing well. He was in the hospital for a little bit, but he's doing better now. And the other spouse didn't have it. He just had pneumonia, but he is on medication right now. And he's doing better as well. So we've all been pitching in. Also, half the staff is also on vacation now because everybody thought we were going to be moving in to the new library. And so now they're taking their vacation before they can, before we have to move. So there was a lot of everybody stepping up. All day Monday, Andy, Helen, and I, we spent pretty much the whole day interviewing people for Andy's position. We had 18 applicants and we interviewed 7 of them. And now there are 2, we've narrowed it down to 2. I'm going to interview them next Tuesday. And so hopefully we'll have someone by next week, or at least know who we're going to have next week. I submitted the Eris report. Thank you, Katrina, for signing it. So nothing really new to report other than circulation stats did go up. It was mostly from electronic materials, but that's kind of expected given what the year was like. And I have to go before the select board to ask them to accept the LSTA grant that we received from the Access for All grant. So I have to do that. I submitted the memo to Anthony today and all of the supporting documents. And I believe he said I could go on the September 13th select board meeting to ask them to accept it. So hopefully that'll happen. That's about it. Been pretty busy. The rest of my report is just the stats. We did have a few tornado warnings. So we spent about 3 different days or 3 different times downstairs in the bomb shelter, 2 on the same day. And that's about it.
The fire alarm.
Oh yeah, there was a fire alarm too.
You guys had a lot of emergencies.
Yeah, we did. Apparently that was LCTV. There was some equipment that heated up.
Mm.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen in the new library.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
I see Andy is like killing it with the notary numbers, but pretty soon you guys are going to have to pick up that slack.
She counts every single page. So that's what that is.
37 is a large number.
That's still a lot, but still, it was one person.
Okay.
Yeah. Divorces need a lot of divorces and wills. They need a lot of notary stamps.
That makes sense. All right. Any questions about the director's report? I do not either. All right. So old business, we had the new library updates, which I think we wrapped it into the building updates.
Yeah.
My apologies about that. So new business is COVID updates and policies. Sam, do you want to run through what we're currently doing for COVID?
Sure. So masking mandate is going into effect next week. So, but the staff has been wearing masks pretty much for the last 3 or 4 weeks, pretty much. Right now, if a staff member, luckily no one on staff has gotten COVID, but we did have a staff member's spouse get COVID. And so she self-quarantined, she got tested. We had another staff member that also thought their spouse might have COVID. So she stayed home, quarantined, got a test, had multiple tests. They both had multiple. Sorry, I live in Leominster. Everybody got multiple. So right now we're just having everybody get multiple tests, stay home, make sure they're not symptomatic. And if that's about it for now, basically, we've been following what you put down in your draft policy. We just didn't have a policy to follow.
You didn't have it all in one place.
Right.
Yeah. So try as these cases kind of or concerns cropped up, realize that we didn't have one document to help us really summarize what to do in the case that somebody was a close contact or a case among the staff members. So I reached out to Jim, the town, they have all the separate documents that Jim Greffy has handed them. And I took those documents and put it in this summary that I circulated to you guys earlier this week. So my hope was just to have some common threads so that people could know what to expect if they are a case or they're symptomatic, close contact plus symptoms. And some of that will vary by vaccination status. So does anyone have questions about this summary?
I had one, and I'm not sure it's relevant because I'm coming from a school perspective, and I know that the DESE guidance and the DPH guidance specific to schools is a different track for which symptoms you're more concerned about if you're vaccinated versus not. I don't know if that's really relevant in this setting, but I wanted to raise that and just ask, is it worth even breaking that down or just leave it as is?
So the symptoms that I have listed here are the ones directly from the Massachusetts guidance for quarantine and isolation. So that's the fever, chills, muscle pain, headaches, sore throat, and new loss of taste or smell. And that is listed in both the document for vaccinated and unvaccinated. So I didn't distinguish it. I just was trying to be consistent with the state and where their expectations are right now. And that is also similar to the CDC. So it didn't feel like I should go too far off of that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. The school ones differentiate vaccination for the loss of taste or smell, fever, and I forget the other two. I think nausea potentially, and everything else.
It is nausea,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, and the other ones like headache and things like that are only if you have a whole bunch of the other symptoms and stuff, which I think can get more confusing. But wanted to raise it because I know that's slightly different. So if this is what the state's doing, that makes a lot of sense to me.
This is what the state is saying. I do think the best way for us to keep our staff safe is if you're sick, don't go in. Like it should be a sick policy anyway. That is one way to prevent close contacts if you then later find out that you're a case. But I think the state is differentiating that with close contact plus symptoms in the 14-day time period too. So they're like a known close contact plus symptoms, but clearly if you have symptoms, you don't want to go to work if you're ill because someone's going to get sick. And it does help that everyone's wearing masks. So that will help with some source containment of any germ, not just COVID. So a few things, clearly confirmed cases shouldn't be going in and they should be following the state's guidance and whatever the contact tracers are informing them to do. The state has, in their policies, has a prior COVID infection in the last 90 days are exempt from this quarantine policy. Clearly, if they are symptomatic, we must still want to be careful, but it's pretty clear cut because you can't get a PCR test at that point anyway. And again, symptomatic staff, regardless of vaccination status, should, if they have those symptoms, should get tested, seek testing, especially if they have a known close contact. And then it comes down to vaccinated versus unvaccinated status. And we haven't ever required our staff to tell us whether they're vaccinated or not. We've taken that as, I think most of them have volunteered that information. So I am assuming that they will tell Sam when and if the time comes, be open and honest about that, but that could be a choice if we wanted to collect cards, but I don't think this town as a whole is doing that. So I don't feel comfortable at this point telling the staff they have to do that unless someone else has.
Everyone's been pretty open about it. I think everyone's vaccinated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys are all comfortable, then that and are open with each other, that helps things a little bit. And then, so this is where the state's guidance and the CDC's guidance diverge a little bit. So the state, since March 8th, has said fully vaccinated people do not need to quarantine following an exposure. And more recently, at the end of July, CDC updated their recommendations based on Delta to recommend that fully vaccinated individuals who came in close contact with someone with COVID seek diagnostic testing 3 to 5 days after that date of exposure, and to wear a mask in public indoor settings for 14 days after, and to continue to look for symptoms. And when I was talking to Jim Gareffi about this, he's saying their contact tracers are seeing fully vaccinated people convert to cases around day 5. So it's not the 3 might be too early. 5 would be a better testing frame, but somewhere in there, depending on when they're coming to work and stuff, we should try to know their status before they come to work, if possible.
So then should they, if they are a close contact, are we going to ask people to stay home for those 5 days or 6 or 7 until they get the results, or what's the story
So
on
that is a question, actually, how we want to deal with that. And I was hoping maybe Sam could provide us some information about staffing and how that would impact, how either of those decisions would impact your staff, either staffing levels or also staff comfort.
So that's pretty much what our staff has been doing. The 2 staff members, they stayed home. Like I said, it was really an issue because most of the staff, some of the staff was also on vacation. So if, when most of the staff comes back, if hopefully this never happens again, but if it does happen again, we'll have higher staffing levels, and it's something that we can deal with. We dealt with it, these last couple of weeks with barely any staff. So I think once we have staff, it'll be okay. And I think the staff that do have close contacts, they don't want to get anyone sick, so they volunteer to stay home. So I don't think that's an issue.
And they have what is the sick policies and things like that, or how does that?
So if you're benefited, you have sick time.
Okay.
If you're non-benefited, then you don't get paid. But there is COVID pay right now through the town. So if it's a positive case of COVID, then you would get COVID pay. Or even if you're staying home to get tested, you would get COVID pay.
Okay. So there is mechanism that they're not.
Right. It doesn't come out of our own budget. It comes out of the town's.
The COVID pay
So-
policy.
My only question on the policy is it any different than the policy that the town has? Or if the town has a policy, if the town comes up with a policy, how will that affect our policy?
I haven't really seen a policy yet from the town.
They don't actually have a policy,
Yeah.
one single policy.
Okay.
I can tell you that it's pretty similar to policies I've seen from other libraries that are going through this. There's a lot of other like Lowell, they made a mask mandate a few weeks ago. And, it's pretty similar to that. I just reviewed a policy for MVLC and it was pretty similar. So yeah, but as far as the town goes, I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I just don't want, it just would be weird if we diverge too much from the town. That's
Yeah,
my only
I
comment,
started
so.
with the town before and realized there wasn't a set policy, that they don't actually have one succinct plan
Okay,
to guide their directors of any department on how to handle this. I think they're calling Jim Graffy directly to figure it out at each time.
Yeah, when this came up, I asked the assistant town administrator and he referred me to Jim, basically. Yeah.
And Jim is there. Like, if you ever have questions, you should definitely reach out to Jim. He is definitely much more knowledgeable about how to handle this because he's done the contact tracing than I have.
The town is not providing testing for employees, right? So the employees are on their own to get the testing?
Yes. So the state requires diagnostic testing, which is a PCR or Abbott's by Next Now antigen test. What I am
And
not clear about is if the over-the-counter by Next Nows are sufficient, or if in order to return to work, do they need to have the official results from a different, like a testing facility?
That was my other question.
Yeah, I mean, I think, what do you guys think about this? I'm gonna put it back on you guys.
Before you answer that, the other question is, and I don't know if anyone has this information. I know when Penny went to camp, it was not the easiest thing to schedule the test for that piece, especially locally. So I don't know if that's just because everyone was doing it at that time frame or if there's ebb and flow. So I'm just wondering about, like, are there trends? Are we seeing that the tests are available to get around the 5th day fairly easily?
So I think testing.
I have lots of experience with this.
I was gonna say, Mira, maybe you can help us.
Lay it on me, Mira.
So there is. So if you are a close contact, then you can get a doctor's order and then you can get an appointment, locally at the doctor's office or at the urgent care at the point. There's a place, Lawrence just does, you don't need an appointment to go to Lawrence. You might have to wait a little while. There's a place in Lowell where usually you can make an appointment the next day. So if there are both options, if you plan ahead, you can make an appointment somewhere pretty easily. If you just want to walk in, there are other options. It's not anything super local is the only, and then urgent care, you might other places charge through your insurance. So that's another hassle. So we've done them all.
So my understanding is that, as Mira just said, that's not super local. The number of testing sites, the state, once they took away the state of emergency, all of those state sites were, I'm pretty sure all of them, if not all, there might be a handful still, were dismantled. And they're not, because there's no state of emergency, they can't stand them back up quickly. They have more legal things to run through in order to put them back up if there is another surge. So they're really relying on things like pharmacies, urgent care, your doctor's office. So Littleton's back in a little bit of a testing desert. So, I mean, it would be nice to have a printout from one of these testing facilities so that we know that the testing was done correctly. But if we're really into a spot where we can't get that because someone really can't get an appointment, there are by Next Nows that you can buy over the counter. But the ones over the counter, you're supposed to be doing serially, like you could do one at day 3 and one at day 5, kind of thing, because that's designed to be done twice as the diagnostic test. So for the ones that are over the counter.
And how do you get the results on those? I don't know how those work.
It's like a pregnancy test. I have
Oh, okay.
experience with those. So my family has used them to test symptomatic individuals before we see high risk family members. And so it's much like the kids have done in school. You're swabbing your nose and then you're sticking it in this little cartridge that looks and swirling it around, and you wait. And then it has the lines, like you have 2 lines if you're positive, just like you would in a pregnancy test. Trying to explain that to a 9-year-old was interesting. But
Hey, Katrina, you don't have to register those. Like my work uses the Binex now we have for a year, but we have to register each test online so we get an official printout. But the over-the-counter ones are not going through a system at this point.
they, as far as I know, are not going through a system. There is a
Okay.
a QR code that you scan if you're positive to try to like connect you to things, but it's
Okay.
which is why part of me was like, maybe you can now. I don't know. The ones I had did not have that information. They might have updated it. So again, it would be nice to have like the official return to work kind of thing. But given that we are a workplace that serves the public. But if not, I guess we can talk about whether that $24 over-the-counter test would work in a pinch. Technically, it counts for this, so per the state. So I don't want to put barriers in front of our staff for returning if they really are negative and they've gone through best effort to show that they're negative.
Is it an option to offer a menu, like a tiered menu? Like the ideal might be to get the test or to have your doctor have a differential diagnosis and say you don't need it. And then the third option is to do the over the counter. So that you're hitting a menu.
Option. Yeah.
I mean, this is a menu. Because it's not a one size fits all scenario. At least not that I've seen just in my work environment. There's always like nuanced pieces. So I'm wondering if like these are the pathways back and you choose what makes the most sense for your situation, for your family, for your circumstances. Because ideally you're going through your doctor either way. I mean, ideally you're not just going to CVS and taking a test. You're working with your doctor about what makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so we could start with a PCR by next now antigen test or a differential diagnosis from your healthcare provider, or else. If you can't do anything else, we could do the over the counter. Staff, Sam, how do you think the staff will feel about that?
I don't feel I have an issue with that. For the 2 cases we had these past couple of weeks, I think they basically did a combination of that. They had both the over the counter test and they went to their doctors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're already kind of quarantining beforehand too. Is that what you just said?
Right.
Cool. And then unvaccinated staff without symptoms has to still go through the traditional quarantine policies from the state. And there's 3 different pathways for that, depending on someone's willingness to test, basically. So one is that they could go PCR by next now, taken on day 5 or later. And if it's negative, then they can return to work after day 7, I believe. As long as they're without symptoms, but they have to keep monitoring for symptoms. And then there's 2 other levels. One's a 10-day quarantine and one's a strict 14-day quarantine. So that is that image in the policy summary is taken straight from the back to work guide that Jim Gareffi provided to me. And so all these things that I've linked, I can send you. You have so that you have the official policies, Sam, together with them in case there's any concern or questions.
I have a question. What about booster shots? There's a lot of talk about that now. I mean, as far as I know, everybody on staff is vaccinated. So what happens when they start talking about booster shots?
So it's my understanding right now, if someone has a condition that makes them immunocompromised, then they are currently eligible to get the third shot in their series. That's a traditional way that they get all vaccines. It's not a booster shot for any immunocompromised person. That list, I believe, is on the state website. If not, I can get it for you. It's on the CDC website as well, to see if anyone qualifies for one of those, if your staff has questions about that. And then there is discussions about a third shot, a booster shot. So to be clear, lots of vaccines for adults have 3 shots. So I don't know if this is really a booster or just the third in the series for everyone. So it's kind of hard to tell right now, but it's my understanding that the FDA and the ACIP have not made any official word on that yet, but they're looking at like an 8 months after your vaccination, your last vaccination, if you're in the 2-shot series or your first one for J&J. Sorry, let me back that up. J&J doesn't have one being recommended yet. It's just the mRNA vaccine. So that is my understanding is that data is being reviewed and has not been officially recommended yet. And at this point in time, unless you're immunocompromised, then people should be holding off on getting a booster shot. I know there are people in medical care, like healthcare workers. I've seen some of my friends recently getting access to them because of their jobs. And my understanding is there's a lot of immunocompromised people in long-term care centers who also got their shots first. So they're getting vaccinated with their third shot as well. But I can let you know as soon as we know that boosters are accessible, available. And I think your staff has a mixture of the mRNA shots and J&J shots. So we'll have to just, every time I hear something, I will send it out and you can share it with whomever is impacted by that decision. But yeah, we'll see where we're going here. And then the masks are required for the next, at least until November 1st, it sounds like, in town.
That's good.
Yeah. Andy's concerned
question
about her. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sam.
No, it's not related to, it's something else. You can go.
I don't know if this needs to be rounded out here or at all, but the quarantine or remote work, depending on staff's role, proximity, do you need to have more clear guidelines on who you permit to remote work or not, so there's not a discrimination or a concern that this one got to remote work, this one didn't at a later date, or is that okay to be fluid?
This is where I have to defer to Sam, because Sam knows the roles inside the library and what they need to do.
Yeah, I think it's okay to be fluid. Most of the staff would work the cert desk, so I'd probably have them do some sort of workshop or something like that.
Program or something.
Yeah.
Virtual.
And do they have
Virtual, yeah.
Again, my experience is limited to my workplace where this was like a whole thing, just like a whole different story. But like if they had to quarantine for 14 days, do they have 14 days worth of work that they could do remotely?
Yeah. We were closed for about 3 weeks when this first started, and we had them doing things.
And then the next question I had, Sam, is there, again, this is probably a fluid decision and you have to make a decision on the fly, but depending on close contact situation with staff themselves, we might be a situation where you have to close your doors temporarily or shift to curbside, depending on your staffing levels.
Right. Yeah, if it dipped low enough, we would probably have to go to curbside or maybe even close. It would depend.
If that was the case, how would you send out word about that to the public?
To the public? Probably every way we send out everything else, about programming, send it through email blasts, Facebook, LCTV, all that.
Okay. Let's hope we don't get there.
Yeah.
Especially during the move. All right. Does anyone else want to comment on this piece? Helen, what are you thinking? You okay?
Not too much. I kind of feel like if we could make it through this week, it was crazy. It was, we had Julia, we had Diana, we had people on vacation. So we really kind of, Sam spent a lot of time at the CERT desk this week. So it was a good week. So
Nice.
It's good for him. It builds character.
no, he's been doing his lion's share. He came in on Saturday. I must confess, he's been really great job this week. It's been hard for all of us, but great job.
You could tell when I went in the other day, everyone was very busy.
Do we need to vote on that policy or do we
That
just
is my
accept
next
it? Or
question. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a policy, so it should be voted on. Are you voting on this? Is this the complete version or is this just a draft? Or
Right now it's a draft,
okay,
but the yellow sections are the ones we just discussed in detail because that was the ones where the questions were outlining. So that was the recommendation, is to be a little more conservative and follow the CDC guidance and asking staff to seek testing, vaccinated staff to seek testing on day 3 to 5.
So, just for clarity, if we voted this policy now, as it is, can we do that? And then I assume we'll be probably revisiting this policy every month or two anyway, right? So this can be what you publish is effectively a good policy for the next month. And then if something changes after that, we'll revisit it in our October meeting. Is that the plan? And then November meeting and every other meeting from here on out?
Yeah, I do think personally think that's a good plan, because if Sam starts using it and something doesn't work, I think sometimes you find the kinks that way.
So as it's currently written, are you okay with the policy, or do you need to or is there something we need to specifically change to?
No, I'm changing it right now as we speak, just updating it for the tiered testing preferences. And then the one question I just realized is still outstanding is, do we want to ask unvaccinated staff to test before returning? To do the 7-day strict quarantine versus the 10 or 14 day?
I would say yes, but I don't think anyone's unvaccinated anyway. So
Okay.
It's kind
I'm
of,
going to do it just in case we somehow get somebody.
yeah. If we hire someone next week that's unvaccinated, there you go.
Okay, so I will make a motion to accept the COVID policy as amended. And then Katrina is going, after we vote, Katrina's going to export it to PDF and we're going to put it on the website. Is that the plan? And
Sure.
then any changes to the Google Doc if you want to update the Google policy, it doesn't take effect until we revote it and republish it then, right?
Also put it on the PDF, but also make sure, I think first let your staff know about it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll make a motion to accept the policy as currently prepared.
I second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. So Kimberly,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Mira,
Yes.
and Chris.
Yes, and I when you guys second, I can't hear who's second. Was it Wendy or Mira?
Wendy.
Wendy.
It was
Thank you.
Wendy.
And I say yes.
We should say our name for you. All right, and I'm a yes as well. So we're unanimous. I don't want you to have to use this one, Sam.
Mm-hmm. Me neither.
I feel better with you having one though, and how to handle it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for doing this.
Is there any other business that we should discuss tonight?
I don't have it.
Can I just say something I'm grateful for about the library, because I forgot to say it before? Because in this day when there's a gajillion different TV providers, and you can't subscribe to all of them, you can still borrow the DVDs from the library and then watch them. We did that, and I just want to say I really appreciate that, because there's old shows we want to watch. This is what we do.
Love it.
Yeah.
It is nice. All right. Well, that is the end of our September 2nd meeting.
I'll
Mira
make
makes a motion to adjourn. Oh,
I'll second that.
okay.
We can't make all the motions work.
I'm just trying to move us along.
All right, Kimberly,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Mira,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Katrina, yes. Thank you, guys. We'll see you. The next meeting is October 7th. We'll see everyone then on Zoom.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, all. Bye.